Hi, I'm Margaret. I'm blind. Welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to make some Christmas ornaments out of some foam clay that I've had sitting around in storage for a while. It took me a hot minute to fish this out because it was my craft box. It wasn't because it's not because I'm blind that it took me forever to find this. It's because I am messy and I did not organize my craft. I have not organized my craft box in a while. A while's an understatement. But anyways, I wanted to make some gingerbread cookie ornaments because my family already has a set of them on our tree, one for each of us, but our dogs are not part of that yet. I thought of buying whoa, this foam clay is so old. The top of it is kind of dry, but the underside is still kind of moist. Can I still use this? I think so. I think I just need to condition it a lot. What was I saying? Oh yeah. Yeah, our dogs don't have any, we don't have any dog ornaments on the tree, so why not make some? I thought of buying some dog cookie cutters to make my life easier, but then I was like, why would I spend money on that when I can freehand it? Mind you, blindness is a spectrum, contrary to popular belief. I'm not doing this without any sight at all. I have a tiny bit of remaining vision in my left eye, albeit it's very, very blurry. I lack depth perception. There's a lot of factors that make it really crappy, but I feel like, you know, I got the vague shape of our dogs in my brain. So starting off with Sam, the older of our two dogs, we adopted him, what, 9 years ago now? Yeah, because he's 9. We adopted him when he was still a 4-month-old puppy from a shelter. And it was a week after I actually lost my vision. So he has been with me through a lot. We don't know exactly what he is. For sure, he's part lab. The other thing that most people suspect him being is perhaps Shiba Inu. That's what we get a lot of because of his size, because he's not the size of a full lab, but he is slightly bigger than a Shiba, and he has other traits that Shibas have, like his tail curls the same way. This is just a circle. I need this to be more rectangular. Hold on. Maybe I'll roll this other half of the foam clay out next and then shape his body from here. This is actually such old clay that it is a little dry in some parts. I think I'm gonna get some water to make this easier to work with. I think I wet my hands a little too much. Now it's really sticky. Do you hear that? Ooh, ASMR. This part, I guess, yeah, this part will be his head. I'll just cut away bits. I'll start off with the back. So there's one bit. And then cutting off some from here for his neck. And the underside of his jaw. His snout. Ooh. See, the thing about my remaining vision is I have enough to see the gray foam against my pink mat here. But when it comes to cutting the details out, this is a little more strenuous because my remaining vision lacks depth perception. So finding the spot to cut away bits is not easy. Aha! His snout feels way too long. I'm gonna cut some more off from this end. Maybe a little bit more. Oh, maybe I made his snout a little too short now. Shit! Editing Margaret's coming in with a voiceover because this part took me a while. Anyways, I kept cutting away parts of the snout until I thought it was the right length, and then there was a curved end on the tool I was using, on the opposite end, that I used to make this snout less square. So yeah, I was using that in my fingers. There we go. You see that? Woo! There's his head.
And then I moved on to sculpting his torso, which I cut out from a bigger piece of foam clay. Basically, I just cut a straight line out at the top. If you can see this, you know what I'm talking about. If you can't see this like me, I am so sorry. I'm really bad at describing visuals. You get it. You know why. Anyways, the bottom part, I accounted for the way dogs' chests puff out a little bit, obviously with their rib cage, the way it curves. So I had to do that. But later on, as I was trying to shape the rest of his torso, I made a grave mistake. And by grave mistake, I mean I cut off too much at the back, so his torso overall was too short, and he didn't have a butt. So then I took some scrap clay that was left over and tried to reattach it at the back. It didn't blend as smoothly as I would have wanted, but it's fine because this entire project was me Frankensteining different body parts together, and spoiler alert, they didn't blend in perfectly either. I'm just going to attribute that to their overall homemade vibe.
Whoa, oh my god, I almost knocked my entire phone over.
Once I attached the head, I moved on to making the legs. I rolled out pieces of clay in the shape of not regular perfect cylinders. I did try to make them taper off at the end, so they did sort of resemble baby carrots. Then I flattened each of them down a little bit. The second leg did require some trimming to get it to match the first.
No. Okay, that should be fine. It's okay. It's okay. It's fine.
I actually have no idea how much of this process you can see well because I know my head was super close to the table since I was trying to use my little bit of remaining vision. Honestly, the reality of trying to use it is that more often than not, even if it's whatever I'm looking at is really close to my one working eye, I am still straining it a lot. And I am also often hunched, so the back pain, yay. Hence why I often forgo using my bit of remaining vision when I can use other assistive tech in other parts of my life, but when it comes to crafts, yeah, I just fully commit to straining myself for the fun of it. And it's really only a once in a while thing, because if I do it too often, it's going to cause the pressure in my eyes to skyrocket, which is going to cause more damage because, woo, glaucoma. Anyways, for his paws, I just rolled out some little balls, attached them to the legs, flattened them out a little bit, and then trimmed the bottom so they would have a flat edge. And then I moved on to sculpting his tail, which took me a surprising amount of time. I rolled out a little snake of clay and just tried to get it to curve the way I wanted before I flattened it out and attached it to his body initially. At first, I thought it was too short, and then I made one that was too long, and I thought it hung over awkwardly, and needless to say, I did this several times over. Spoiler alert though, when I was hanging out with my dog afterward and petting him, I realized I could have made his tail curve in more, but it was already mostly dry, the ornament. I mean, it was mostly dry by the time I realized this, so I wasn't gonna go back and cut off the tail I had sculpted out and then try to reattach a new one, and I already did enough Frankensteining.
I don't know if you can hear the snoring behind me. That's our other dog. For such a tiny little guy. He's a Chihuahua. He snores fairly loud. Nice. Oh my god, Manchego.
And then I moved on to sculpting tinier details like his nose and his eyes, which were very quick because I just took the tiniest bits of clay that I'd initially cut off from other parts. Of course, I couldn't forget to sculpt out his ears. I just cut out a triangular piece of clay and tried to soften the edges with my fingers because I wanted them to look like they were floppy like his actual ears. There was also another detail I decided to add on afterward. Basically, while the ornament was drying, I decided to go back and add a collar. But that aside, here was the first ornament after I finished sculpting it. Because I recorded that reveal at the same time I was recording the rest of the process, the angle was off. It was upside down.
Oop, and there's the first of our dogs done.
Hey, buddy. Good boy, Sam. And now here's a time lapse of me working on the other ornament, which was for my cousin's Chihuahua Manchego, who, fun fact, is named after a type of cheese, so maybe I should have made something resembling cheese instead. Don't know how I would have done that, though. Whatever, the process to make this ornament was mostly the same as the process to make the Sam ornament, just a few minor detail changes like his tail being shorter and his ears obviously being pointed up like a Chihuahua's, and his snout also being shorter and a little rounder. There was a little mishap with his legs that I didn't notice until I was done and the ornament was basically almost dry, when I went to go show my cousin, she pointed out that his back leg was shorter than his front, which initially I didn't notice when I was feeling it, but it's okay because actually in real life, she reminded me Manchego's back leg, one of his back legs, is actually smaller than the rest. So in the end, I was accurate, but I just didn't realize it.
Hello, sleepy gremlin. No. Hello, different day. I have finished sculpting and I even primed the ornaments with, where did I put it? Not Mod Podge. I have something similar to Mod Podge that I use for priming foam armor for cosplay. I forgot what it's called though. Was it Flex Bond? Or is that the weird tape infomercial? Flex tape? I don't remember. I finished sculpting both of the dog cookie ornaments and then I primed them. Here is our lab mix Sam. Does it feel a little rough in certain places? Like the primer I used isn't perfectly smooth. I didn't perfectly smooth it out. I couldn't see that. I just tried to make sure it was fully coated so the paint wouldn't soak into the foam and I wouldn't waste paint. Yeah, it's not perfectly smooth, and then of course there's also some rough bits where I tried to blend the different body parts into the main torso, but it didn't blend perfectly, and then it's kind of lumpy. But cookies in real life aren't perfectly smooth. They have texture, so this is fine. And then here's our Chihuahua, my cousin's dog, Manchego. I just realized, crap, I punched a hole into the top of the Sam ornament, but I forgot. I could feel it here. I forgot to punch a hole into the top of the Manchego ornament. I have this little clay sculpting tool with a point. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see it? I have no idea. But let me just feel for like a random spot here on his torso and try to punch a hole in. Hopefully this will still be okay. Okay, the tools come out on the other end, so still soft enough. It's all good. Aha. Boom. And we're all good. I'm mixing the paint together to try and get that cookie color. I got brown, I got yellow, and I got white. This is my second try, but it keeps coming out grayish. At least that's how my brother is describing it to me. I guess third time's the charm.
This is gonna be such a simple craft, she said. This is gonna be so short, she said. Yeah, no. Me. I was wrong. At this point in my life, I should have known that this would have taken me way longer than expected just because gotta account for me, 1, winging it, and 2, being blind. Although honestly, I feel like most of the mishaps could be attributed to me just winging it and not having instructions, not even necessarily just being blind, just the lack of instructions and my hubris. I say all this to say, third time was not the charm, neither was fourth. In fact, I lost count of how many times I painted the ornaments with several layers, decided that I didn't like the color, then went back and remixed the paint.
So, 5th, 6th, 7th time is the charm. I'm repainting the ornaments again because I didn't like how the color came out yesterday. It was very yellowy brown, so here we go. Wish me luck. Although obviously by the time you see this, I'm probably going to have lost my mind trying to do this.
They ask you how you are, and you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Once I got that over with though, I moved on to the last bit of painting, which was adding the white icing details. I actually had 3D puff paint that was perfect for this. Initially, I piped it onto the details where I wanted the icing, basically eyes, nose, collar, and I tried to spread it out with a brush because in my head I already sculpted out those details, so I should just paint them white. I didn't have good control of the brush though, so I just committed to using the bottle with the nozzle tip that was already on there, and I think it turned out better because once it dried, it felt like actual dried icing to me.
Ta-da! I finally finished the cookie ornaments, well, except for adding ribbon to hang them. I know I have some somewhere that I bought for another craft ages ago. I just don't remember where I put it. But anyway, they're finally done. It only took me a few days because of how many times I decided to repaint them. Funny story about that. Basically, I was going for a gingerbread, maybe shortbread color with the ornaments, right? So I thought mixing brown and white would be enough. No, so I added yellow. Maybe that would help with the color a bit, but every time I asked my brother for his opinion on the color ratio and like the mix, it was coming out way too yellow. And then if I added too much brown to it, turns out the brown was a little more cool tone, so it was coming out way too gray then. Honestly, at the end of the day, it probably would have been better if I had orange or red to balance it out and make it warmer, but I didn't have that, and I only wanted to make this craft with things I already had lying around the house because I didn't want to go out and buy more paint. The last iteration was brown and white with just the tiniest hint of yellow. I didn't think it had come out too gray that time, but then the next day when it dried and I looked at it, it was still a little too yellow for my liking. So it hit me, in order to add a bit more of an orange tinge to it, because this was sitting right next to me when I was doing this craft, I decided to dust it with some bronzer. I believe this is the Hoola bronzer, Benefit Hoola. I bought this like last year because I used to use a mini NARS one I got with Sephora points, but this was too orange on my face and I haven't used it since. Or maybe I was just too heavy-handed that one time I tried it. Maybe I'll try again. But I decided to add a light dusting to the cookie ornaments. Didn't make much of a difference. I think so, but perhaps I'm delusional. Anyway, are they a little imperfect? Yeah, but I think that's part of the charm of handmade ornaments. At least when you're a kid. Maybe the charm is lost when you're 25, like me. But you know what? They're going up next to a bunch of other decorations because we have a lot of Christmas decorations. So they're not going to be the focal point. They're just going to be part of the general vibe. So I don't think anyone's going to look at them too closely. And if they do, whatever. My family gets it. I'm blind. They don't expect it to be perfect. But for the most part, people are going to be looking at it from some sort of distance, you know? Maybe from here, it'll look better. Here, but I digress. I'm fairly happy with how they turned out. That is all for today. Oh, actually, before I go, I wanted to mention I hit 100 subs on here, so thank you very much for everyone who's decided to subscribe. I know that's a drop in the bucket for plenty of people on the internet. 100 doesn't seem like a ton. Why did I pick up my makeup brush? Sorry, I was just using that for the bronzer earlier. I know that seems like a drop in the bucket for most people. It's not a big deal, but you know what? Everybody's got to start somewhere. That's what I meant to say. Everybody's got to start somewhere. I appreciate every one of you who has stuck around so far. I'd like to do something to celebrate. I did make myself some chocolate lava cakes the other day, but maybe once I amass enough questions, I'll do a Q&A. So you can ask me about my blindness, my hobbies, whatever. And if you would like to see me wing it at more crafts or other hobbies, cooking, baking, maybe, comment, like, subscribe if you haven't already. Again, thanks for everybody who hasn't. Thanks for watching. That's it. Okay, bye, later. Finally found some ribbon to hang the ornaments up, and they're on this garland on the staircase with the dog's stockings. Okay, that's seriously it. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, bye.